Dortmund able to hold on. Final score 2-1. What it means for the German side, they will advance to the quarterfinals where they're going to face Real Madrid on Saturday in New Jersey. Herc, I was listening to, I think it was yesterday's edition of ESPN FC. You said Rayados had no chance.
Yeah.
They do better than you thought?
They did, a lot better. But they, murieron de pie, pero igual murieron. They died.
Okay.
It was a valiant effort, but they went down. They were very naive in the first half, and that did them in. Because if it's a even game, if you don't give up those two naive goals in the first half, you're heading in 0-0 at halftime, and you play that way,
right?
You play Dortmund off the field. You were the better team the second 45. Dortmund was lucky. They were chasing shadows. Tecatito Corona rolled back the clock. He looked like a better version of the Tecatito of 2018, playing centrally in a number 10 role. And you're thinking to yourself, there's something here. And even when they're down, how many of you, when Sergio Ramos goes up and he's playing as a 9, you're like, don't tell me this is going to happen. You felt this was going to happen. Sergio Ramos was going to score in the 90-something minute. And you're like, this is going to overtime, and there's no way Dortmund is going to survive this. And they don't, and they survive. But it leaves you with a good feeling if you're a Rayado fan, if you're a Rayado player, if you're a Liga Mechis fan of what you saw today. Because I know it's not the Dortmund that played a Champions League final a few years back. I know this is a very depleted squad with a lot of their own problems. But you shouldn't have been in this game, and yet you were.
Well, they weren't.
A new team with a new coach. Well, they were, because that second half.
Well, what I'm saying is the first half they weren't.
Correct.
Did you really feel that way? You felt the first half was one-sided? I mean, Rayados had a bunch of chances in that first half.
Rayados had, I think, 2 chances that were good, but Dortmund were in complete control.
They had the lion's share. Yeah.
And then they had
control. I disagree with that.
Well, no, of course it wasn't complete control because they gave up a couple decent chances, but in the end, Korbel, it was pretty simple saves and everything else, but Dortmund also had 2 or 3 other chances to extend that 2-0 lead. But to Herc's point, I give Monterrey a ton of credit for the way they approached the second half and should have got something out of the match.
Ale, you covered Dortmund a lot in the Bundesliga, so I wonder, you've seen Dortmund at, I guess in theory, their best. How close or far off were they today?
And actually, more accurately, I've seen Dortmund at their worst.
Sorry, yeah, right. Certainly this past season.
Right. And it's not surprising that Dortmund were on the verge of collapsing.
Yeah.
This is something that they do and have done really well in Bundesliga. This whole idea
They did it in this tournament against Mamelodi Sundowns.
And that they look like they're in control. They look like their talent should be superior to the team that they're playing against. They look like they're about to score a third and a fourth. And to your point, Casey, Sergio Guirassy scored a couple of goals. He should have had 4 goals. Yeah. And we're not exaggerating. The ones that he missed were tap-ins. He scored a couple of goals. They win the match 2-1. But on the verge of collapsing, and it's something that we see all too often from Borussia Dortmund. We didn't see a lot of that in the back end, or I would say in the final 10 matches or so in the Bundesliga season.
1-7 of 8 to get
that snuck him up into that Champions League.
And Niko Kovac and the presence of Niko Kovac gave this team more structure, more organization. It gave this team a little bit more character or demanded more personality out of the group. And because this is a team that has enough talent, they're going to win most of the games in Bundesliga that they play because they're more talented than the team that they're playing against. But usually they have a collapse in them. They have enough collapse in them to allow other teams back in the match. But I cannot go any further in this conversation without giving a shout out to your boy, and your boy as well, Mauricio Pedrosa, who said that Monterrey, and he was actually confrontational in this, telling Cristina Alexander and myself, and pointing the finger at us, and like, listen to me, escúchenme. Monterrey will make history in this tournament. Now, everybody's making history in this tournament because it's the first time that this tournament is being played. That was my point to Mauricio. I'm not quite sure that he quite understood that. All I would suggest is, the other thing that he said is that Borussia Dortmund, and I quote, is a nothing team in describing Borussia Dortmund. I demand an apology.
On behalf of all Bundesliga.
On behalf of all Bundesliga and Borussia Dortmund as well, and on behalf of the Club World Cup, Mauricio Pedrosa and Cristina Alexander, we need an apology.
He's had a rough 24 hours.
I know.
He eliminated last night, and now this.
I know with your Tigres ways, it probably pains you But would you call this a success for Rayados at the Club World Cup?
Yes, on paper, one would see.
I mean, they're the only Liga. There's only 2 Liga Mechis teams. They're the one that got out of the group.
But there's context to it. Nobody's going to care about context, but I care about context.
Well,
now,
let me
tell you. Well, what are we going to compare them to?
Yeah.
Well, the best Club World Cup performance has still been Tigres, who made it to a final, lost to
Okay,
Bayern
but that's a
Munich.
different format. Come on.
So let me give you
compare them to the other
let me
teams from
give
this
you a
region in
context.
this tournament today. Now,
Let
this
me give
year.
you a context, okay? They were very lucky not to get blown out by Inter. I have no idea how Inter Milan did not blow them out. And then we're very lucky not to get blown out by River, 2 ties. And then they beat Urawa Reds.
Yeah.
Thank you. To qualify and to meet Dortmund. And honestly, they did better than I thought they would against Dortmund. But did they leave you with sans this game? Did they leave you with better sensations than Inter Miami before the Inter Miami bowed out against PSG?
100%.
Really?
Yeah, a
Inter
draw
Miami,
against Inter and a draw against River Plate.
They won no games. Inter Miami won a game.
Urawa, they didn't beat Urawa?
Oh, yes, you're right. We beat Urawa. You're right. Hang the hat on that. On to the next. You're right.
You think Inter Miami had a better...
I think the sensations around Inter Miami before PSG.
Dude, it was 4-0 in like 20 minutes. They were humiliated.
Who are you playing against? PSG, the best team in this competition.
So they blew a late
Best
lead
team in the
against
world.
Palmeiras. They beat Porto.
Yeah. They left
And they
me with
tied Al Ahly.
They left me with a better sensation before this round than Rayados. And who they bowed out to, I am left with a better sensation, okay?
Right.
Than what they showed me, this team, which is, by the way, a team with a massive salary, a team with a massive bill that are historic for not showing it, are historic for underachieving. I thought they did fine against Dortmund. And this is a success for Liga Mechis and Concacaf. But I don't know that I'd go as far as say I was left with better sensations before this game than Inter Miami.
Rayados or Inter Miami, who impressed you more in this tournament? With their full body of work. Take all 4 games into account.
I mean, obviously, I think it's disappointing to get hit as hard as you did. I think if Miami had been a little more competitive against,
And maybe they would have been against a Dortmund as opposed to PSG.
but they would have, and I think they would have. But I would just leave it at the fact that Liga Mechis and MLS had no expectation whatsoever to do anything but get beat badly. And I think was a decent representation for this region. And I had no expectation. I wanted them to be competitive, and they have been. And one Liga Mechis team got through, one MLS team got through.
5 teams total. MLS gets 1 of 3 through.
I think it's good. I think it's
Liga
fine.
Mechis gets 1 of 2 through. If you look at CONCACAF as a whole, did they meet your expectations? Did they surpass? Did they come up short for what you expect in the Club World Cup?
I don't know if we want to go through a full breakdown team by team.
No, just take the 5 in totality. Because that's the point of this tournament, right? To kind of see where you stack up against everybody else in the world.
My feeling is that there is a lot of work to be done.
Oh, 100%.
And the gap between the very best in this competition to the rest, I think, is still significant. And while Inter Miami, and I must say, surprised me in being able to beat Porto and in the manner in which they beat Porto. It wasn't just sitting back. It wasn't just absorbing pressure. Porto had more of the ball, but you saw a performance from Inter Miami that actually was organized and well-structured, which is not always the case with this team. Disciplined, dare I say, tactically disciplined, and matured to some degree. And you're thinking, oh, that was nice. I like that. But as much as I like that, I hate it exponentially more than I love that performance against Porto, the first half against PSG. That was just embarrassing. It was. And look, and it is PSG, and it is the best club in the world, and we all recognize that the difference is large between the two, and should be. It should be a significant difference. But as I mentioned yesterday in FC, I didn't get the sense that Inter Miami were competing with PSG. PSG could have won that game if they had wanted to. If you take away the relationships of Luis Enrique with his former players,
Yeah, they would've-
and if Luis Enrique really ramps this up, and they don't have a quarterfinal to think about, and say, and let the horses run, we are in the territory of Auckland City against Bayern Munich. That is, to use your word, because you used it quite a bit, that is the sensation that I was left with in that performance. All I'm telling you is, in the balance of it all,
I think that's my new adjective.
in the balance of it all, there's a lot of work to be done.
I don't think anybody doubts there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a massive
I think
difference.
it's
Can I
what's the
just-
conversation? Are you trying to catch PSG, or are you being honest and comparing yourself to Mexico?
That's what
maybe the Saudi league.
No, let me tell you where. Let me tell you where. Let me tell you where.
That's-
Let me tell you where. And I think this is where Rayados let themselves down. There wasn't one Liga Mechis fan that didn't have their eyes on Rayados versus River Plate. There seems to be this narrative
Sure.
in Mexico.
They're kind of obsessed with Argentina.
They're obsessed with Argentina. Argentina this, Argentina that, the Argentine club's this, the Argentine club's that. This was your moment. A team that is here by ranking, not here because they won a trophy. Majority of Argentine players that play for River, at some point in time, were in Liga Mechis. At some point in time, you were paying them. This is your opportunity to prove that you belong with those who are Libertadores type. The Argentines that you
They didn't do
desperately
that by
wanted.
drawing
They
River.
didn't. Did you watch the game?
They got out.
Did you watch the game?
Did River get
No,
out?
I'm asking you a question.
Yeah, I did watch
You
the game. Did River get out?
Yes, the River are out. They're back home. But I'm asking you a question. What did you feel watching that game?
I mean, you could do that about every game.
What did you feel?
Rayados were probably second best.
Okay.
But probably. I wouldn't say overwhelmingly.
That's fine.
But
That's every
Hercules,
game.
if you want to play that game,
Yeah.
then what did you think about Inter Miami when they
But
play
I'm not
against
defending
Al
Inter
Ali?
Miami.
Yeah,
I'm telling-
yeah,
I'm telling
should have been
all
3-4
Mexican
nothing.
fans, I'm telling Liga fans,
No,
and
I'm
what
just
Rayados fans wanted to see out of that game.
I'm just look.
At the end of the day, the result is the result.
Well, if
right?
you can, Al Ali, if you watch the game and objectively analyze it, you're
should have
saying
been down 3-0 at halftime.
Al Ali should have beaten Inter Miami, and then
Correct.
we would be having a different conversation in terms of the sensations
Yeah,
of
but the
Concacaf in this
context is
tournament.
different.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean the context is
The
different?
context is he played for Tigres, so there's a context.
All right, there we go. There it is. We got there in the end.
Falta de argumento llega al insulto.
For those of you who use Google Translate at home,